I came back to forgive, but the truth I found was darker than revenge itself. I returned home after 7 long years, but the moment my feet touched the old stone path leading to my father's house, it felt like I had stepped into a memory I didn't fully belong to anymore. The air smelled the same, dusty, warm, mixed with the scent of the jasmine plants my mother once loved. The lawn was cut perfectly, the flowers arranged in neat rows, everything shining like someone cleaned the place just to impress a guest. But I wasn't a guest. I grew up here. I bled on these steps when I fell as a kid. I cried in those hallways when I felt like the world was too heavy. And yet, standing here now, dragging my suitcase over the stones, I felt like an outsider walking into a place that had moved on without me. The front door opened before I reached it. Alina, my sister, stood there like she had been waiting, though her crossed arms and sharp smile said otherwise. She wore a designer dress, soft cream-colored fabric that flowed behind her like she had stepped off a magazine cover. Gold bracelets clinked when she moved. Her hair was perfectly styled, her makeup flawless, her confidence shining as brightly as the jewelry around her wrist. "Look who finally decided to show up," she said, lifting a brow. Her tone was light, but her eyes carried something else, maybe amusement, maybe superiority, maybe both. She looked like someone who had everything handed to her on a silver plate. Next to her was her. Myra. My chest tightened. She stood a little behind the doorframe, half in the shadow of the living room. She wore simple clothes, nothing fancy, just a soft blue shirt and faded jeans, but she looked natural, gentle, real, the same as she always did. Her hair was tied back loosely, small strands falling around her cheeks. Her eyes lifted slowly to meet mine. 7 years. 7 years without hearing her voice. 7 years without seeing that face. 7 years of wondering why things ended the way they did. And now she was standing here, in my father's house, as if she had been part of this place all along. "Hi," she said softly. Just one word, but it hit me like a wave. Everything came rushing back, the nights we talked until sunrise, the dreams we built together, the promises we whispered in the dark. And the day it all shattered. I forced a small nod. "Hi." My voice didn't sound like mine. It sounded too tight, too controlled, too careful. Myra noticed. I saw the way her fingers tightened nervously around the edge of her shirt. She looked like she wanted to say something else, but the moment slipped away. Alina stepped closer to me, blocking my view slightly. "Our golden boy returns," she joked loudly, though there was no warmth behind it. I didn't answer. I didn't trust myself to. Inside, the house looked exactly the same. The same carpets, the same framed photos hanging on the walls, the same furniture my father refused to replace because tradition is stronger than trend. Even the same old wooden clock ticked on the wall, steady and calm, as if nothing had changed except me. Voices came from the living room. I followed the sound slowly. My father was standing near the window, arms crossed, expression serious in the way only he could manage. His hair had more grey than before, his face had deeper lines, but his posture, tall, straight, commanding, was exactly how I remembered. When Alina walked in, he wrapped an arm around her shoulders proudly. "My smart girl," he said, smiling fully for the first time. She laughed lightly and leaned into him. Then he looked at me. His smile vanished. His arm dropped. He said. Just that. A simple sound. A nod. Nothing more. Like I was someone he had once known, not someone he raised. "Hello, Dad," I said quietly. He didn't step forward. Didn't offer a hug. Didn't even soften his eyes. "You came without telling us," he said, voice flat. I didn't know I needed permission. He hummed again, like my answer was expected. Maybe even proof of something he already believed about me. That was how it always was. Alina shined. I existed. I tried to ignore the familiar sting in my chest. I told myself I was older now, stronger, more controlled. But standing in front of him, I felt like the same boy from 7 years ago, trying, failing, breaking, silently hoping for approval that never came. In the corner of my eye, I saw Myra watching silently from the hallway. There was softness in her eyes, something like guilt or sadness or maybe both. Her lips parted slightly, like she wanted to speak, but my father's presence kept her frozen. He always had that effect. I turned away. Everything felt heavy. My suitcase, the air in the room, the memories pressing against my ribs. My father began talking again, praising Alina's achievements. She bought her own apartment, you know, he said proudly, almost loudly. Luxury place. Beautiful. She's doing very well. That's nice, I said. He didn't seem to hear me. Or maybe he did, but he didn't care. He went on and on about her success, her education, her bright future. Meanwhile, he didn't ask about my life. Not where I lived, not how I survived, not what I achieved. Not anything. I wasn't surprised. But I still felt it. I felt Myra's eyes on me again. Every time I looked her way, she looked down. Every time I looked away, I could sense her watching. She was hiding something. Something big. Something tied to the reason we fell apart. And even though we hadn't spoken in years, the silence between us felt louder than any words could have. After a while, I stepped outside to breathe. The evening breeze touched my skin, cool and soft, reminding me of the nights Myra and I used to sit under the old tree and talk about everything. The future, our fears, our dreams. Before everything changed. Before someone tore us apart. Before I left, thinking it was the only way to escape the pain. Now I was standing here again, in the same place, feeling the same ache, but deeper. I heard footsteps behind me. I didn't turn, but I knew who it was. Myra. She stood beside me quietly, leaving a little space, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to come closer. "Welcome home," she whispered. Home. The word felt strange, because this place used to be my home. But now, I wasn't sure what it was anymore. And as the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in soft orange and pink, I had a feeling, strong, sharp, undeniable. Something was waiting to be uncovered. Something buried for years. Something that would change everything. And Myra knew what it was. The evening settled slowly around the house, soft and heavy, as if the sky itself knew something was wrong inside these walls. After hours of pretending things were normal, I escaped outside again. The yard was quiet, the grass cool under my shoes, the faint creaking of the old wooden swing filling the silence like a tired whisper from the past. That swing had seen so much: childhood laughter, late-night talks, stolen dreams. And now it watched me return after 7 years, carrying more questions than answers. I sat on the edge of it, letting it sway gently. The breeze brushed past me, warm but unsettling, as if it was trying to warn me about something I wasn't ready to face. Footsteps approached from behind, soft, familiar. Myra. Even before she stepped closer, I felt her presence. The air around me shifted, like my heart recognized her before my eyes did. She walked toward the swing, hesitating for a moment before sitting a few inches away. Not too close, not too far. Just careful. "You didn't tell anyone you were coming back," she said quietly. Her voice carried a mix of surprise and sadness. Maybe even something like relief, though she tried to hide it. I kept my eyes on the tree branches above us. I didn't think anyone would care. She lowered her gaze. Her fingers twisted together nervously. I cared. The words fell lightly, but they hit deep, like a small stone thrown into a still pond, creating ripples far wider than its size. I wanted to answer, to believe her, to ask why she never said anything. But 7 years of silence sat between us, thick and heavy. Instead, I let the swing sway. The silence between us wasn't empty, it was full of memories. I remembered the last time she sat next to me like this. Her eyes swollen from crying. My father's voice booming in the background. Alina standing a few steps behind him, her arms crossed and her expression sharp. Everything spiraling out of control. Everything falling apart. Back then, I didn't understand why. I only knew that Myra left, and I left soon after. Now, being near her again, those old wounds scratched open. Myra looked at me, studying my face like she was searching for something she lost. "You've changed, but you're still you." "I wish I could say the same," I murmured. She flinched. Not dramatically, just a small, aching movement, like her heart tightened inside her chest. The breeze picked up, carrying the smell of jasmine from the side garden. It was the same scent from the night everything between us collapsed. It felt almost cruel now. Myra took a breath, gathering courage. "Your father, he's still the same. Hard. Controlling. Unfair." "I noticed," I said. "It feels like he's been waiting years just to make sure I still disappoint him." She shook her head. You never disappointed him. He just never wanted to see your worth. I laughed under my breath, a tired, bitter sound. That's not surprising. She didn't deny it, but she leaned slightly closer, as if she wanted to say something more important. Something heavy. There's something I should have told you years ago, she whispered. My heart stopped. Her voice wavered, her eyes shiny with a truth she had carried alone for far too long. She opened her mouth again. Myra. The shout cut through the air like a knife. Alina's voice. Sharp. Controlling. Interrupting at the exact moment something important was about to be revealed. Myra froze instantly. Her shoulders tensed. She looked down at her hands as if she had been caught doing something wrong. Alina stepped out from the patio door, arms crossed, expression cold. There you are, she said to Myra. Then she glanced at me, her smile thin. Dinner is almost ready. Dad wants everyone inside. Her tone made it clear. Conversation over. Myra swallowed, nodding silently. She stood up slowly, avoiding my eyes. Before she walked away, her fingers brushed the rope of the swing. A small, sad gesture, like she wanted to take something with her but couldn't. She whispered, almost too quiet to hear, "We'll talk later." But her voice didn't sound confident. It sounded scared, scared of what she wanted to say, scared of what might happen if she said it. I watched her follow Alina back into the house, her shoulders curled inward as though she was carrying a secret that was too heavy for her small frame. Something was wrong. Something big. And it wasn't just between Myra and me. It was inside this house. It was hidden in my father's sharp eyes, in Alina's controlling tone, in Myra's trembling silence. Whatever happened 7 years ago wasn't just a breakup. It wasn't just misunderstandings. It wasn't just distance. It was something deliberate. Something planned. Something painful enough that Myra couldn't say it even now. I stayed on the swing a while longer, the wind pushing me gently, the sky turning darker by the minute. The first star appeared overhead, faint but steady. For a moment, I closed my eyes and remembered how Myra used to point at the stars and tell me she wanted a life filled with light. But someone had taken that light from her. And I had a feeling I knew who. When I finally went inside, the house felt tense. My father sat at the head of the table, his presence filling the room like a weight. Alina sat proudly beside him, talking about her new apartment, her future plans, her classmates. She spoke loudly, excitedly, knowing she had his full attention. Myra sat quietly next to her, pushing food around her plate, not taking a single bite. She didn't look up even once. But I watched her. And she knew I was watching. At one point our eyes met, and in that brief moment, I saw everything she wanted to hide. Fear, guilt, love, regret, and something darker, something she had carried alone for 7 years. Something connected to me. She looked away quickly, blinking hard. My father noticed the silence between us, but he didn't care enough to question it. He was too busy praising Alina. But I wasn't blind anymore. The puzzle pieces were finally starting to come together. And one thing became painfully, clearly obvious. Myra wasn't silent because she moved on. She was silent because someone made sure she stayed quiet. And the truth she was hiding would break everything wide open. The next morning began with a silence that felt heavier than the air itself. The sun rose slowly behind the curtains, casting long lines of gold across the living room floor, but the warmth didn't reach me. Something inside the house felt cold, tight, ready to snap. I walked down the stairs quietly, hoping to avoid the usual tension. But as soon as I reached the bottom, I heard my father's voice echo through the hallway. It was loud, angry in a way I hadn't heard in years. I gave Alina the $500,000 because she deserved it, he said sharply. She needed it for school. She had potential. I won't apologize for supporting the child who actually gives this family a future. The words hit me like a stone in the chest. 500,000? My sister? While I worked 3 jobs, slept in tiny rented rooms, and fought to stay alive, I stood frozen at the entrance of the living room, my heart pounding. My fists curled slowly without me realizing. I wasn't angry about the money. I was angry about what the money represented, his belief that I wasn't worth investing in, that I didn't deserve help, that I was the weaker one. My father continued, unaware of my presence. And him, he scoffed. He was always just good enough to get by, Good enough for small things. Never someone to bet on. Those were the same words he said 7 years ago. Good enough for small things. I stepped into the room. Is that really how you saw me? They both turned. Alina looked uncomfortable, shifting in her chair. My father stared at me with the same firm, disappointed eyes he always had. Yes, he said simply. That's how it was. That's how it still is. My breath came out slow, controlled, quiet, because the truth was finally standing in front of me, and it didn't even try to hide itself. 500,000, I repeated softly, while I had nothing. My father didn't deny it. He didn't even look guilty. He only shrugged. You never showed promise. Your sister did. Aren't you overreacting? The final thread inside me snapped, not loudly, not angrily, but silently, cleanly, like something long dead had finally fallen apart. Before I could speak, Myra appeared behind my father. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen. She looked like she had been standing outside the doorway for a long time, listening, waiting for the moment she feared would come. Tell him the rest, she said suddenly. Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the room like glass shattering. My father stiffened. No, his voice was stern. This doesn't concern. It concerns him more than anyone, Myra said, stepping forward, her hands trembling. My blood turned cold. What rest? I asked. Myra looked at me with eyes full of years of silence, of guilt, of things she wished she could undo. The money wasn't for school, she began. It wasn't for any of the things she told you. It wasn't even for her. My heart hammered so hard I could hear it in my ears. Then what was it for? I asked. Myra swallowed. Her voice cracked. It was to keep me away from you. The room fell dead silent. I blinked once, slower than usual, my mind refusing to understand. What? She took a shaky breath. Your father paid me to leave you. The world tilted slightly, like the floor had shifted under my feet. I stared at her, waiting for her to smile, to take it back, to say it was some kind of cruel misunderstanding. But she didn't. He paid me, she whispered again. He told me if I didn't leave you, he would make your life harder than it already was. He threatened to cut you off from everything. He said you'd never succeed with me. He said you were a burden. That you would fail. That I would hold you back. Each word pierced deeper than the last. I turned to my father slowly. You did that. His jaw tightened. No denial. No apology. Nothing. You were wasting your time with her, he said coldly. You needed to get serious. You needed to leave childish distractions behind. I shook my head, disbelief washing over me like an icy wave. She wasn't a distraction. She was the only thing that gave my life meaning back then. Myra covered her mouth, tears slipping down her cheeks. I never wanted the money. I didn't take it for myself. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. I thought leaving you would protect you. My throat burned. Protect me from what? From him, she whispered. I felt something break inside me, not anger, not hatred, but something deeper. Something like the realization that my entire past had been twisted by someone who was supposed to love me the most. I stepped back, needing space to breathe. All this time, I thought you left me. I didn't want to, Myra said, crying openly now. I loved you. I still. She stopped herself. Alina stood silently in the corner, her smugness gone, replaced by shock. Maybe she didn't know. Maybe she did. But it didn't matter now. The truth was out. 7 years of pain. 7 years of distance. 7 years of thinking I wasn't enough. All because of one man. My father. I looked at him, not with anger, but with something colder. Disappointment so deep it felt like a wound inside my bones. You ruined everything, I said quietly. Not just for me. For her too. For us. He lifted his chin, refusing to accept guilt. I did what was right for the family. I nodded slowly. Then let me do what's right for myself. I walked toward the door. Myra followed me, her tears falling silently. Are you leaving again? I stopped, turned to face her. No, I said gently. But I'm leaving this house. I'm leaving him. And I'm not going to live under the shadow he built. Her breath hitched. I want a life that's mine, I said. If you want to be part of it, I won't stop you. A fragile, hopeful look flickered in her eyes. Behind us, my father finally spoke, his voice sharp. You're making a mistake. I didn't turn back. For the first time in my life, I said, I'm not. And then the final truth, sharp, cold, and freeing, rose from my chest and fell from my lips as I stepped out the door. You told me I was never enough. But today, you lost everything that truly mattered.